Hey, good morning. It's Charlie Craven at Charlie's Flybox, and today we have been talking this fly up, and so I'm finally going to twist one up for you, and we'll get back into the fly tying thing. But this is Josh Smitherman's Immortal May. We had talked this up on a dry dropper video in the shop, and it's a fly that we've had for a couple years now. And is a little undersung, and I think is not getting utilized as much as it should. So I'm going to show you how to tie it, and I think you should take it out and fish it. Now, this fly comes in a variety of colors, and obviously you can tie it up in whatever colors you like. I'm going to tie you the black one, just because I happen to have the materials right at hand. But there's a kind of gold PMD colored one. There's an olive one. You know, mix it up, matched up however you like. But this is a kind of slender little bug with a tungsten bead, and it's got some little rubber legs on it, so it's got some movement to it. It's got all the things that you'd look for in a good bug. And Josh Smitherman, as I've said before, ties all kinds of cool flies. Mainly known, I would say, for warm water style flies. But his trout stuff is super cool as well. And so I'm going to twist you up this little Immortal May, and we'll see what we think. So I'm going to tie, if I can get this out of my vise, I'm going to tie this on a size 16. 16 to 18 seems to be the sweet spot for these. And I've got a 3/32 black nickel tungsten bead on here. And this hook is a Tiemco 226 BL. So that is a curve shank barbless, slightly up eye. You could substitute in a 2488 or 2488H pretty easily, but this is a cool hook. This is the hook that I use for my Gigi Sally. I like this hook. It's super sharp. And I'm going to start off with some Veevus 14-aught thread in black. And I'm going to start this just up here behind the bead a bit. And I'm going to just come back to about the hook point or so. I don't need to make an entire thread base just yet. And for the tails and legs, there's a lot of stuff you could use. This is spandex elastic. It's like the stuff that you'd use for the legs on a Pat's rubber leg, but it's much finer. And what I'm using is Senyo's Shaggy Dub. I'll get that up there where you can see it. Senyo's Shaggy Dub in black. Comes in a bag. It looks like dubbing, but it is little short strands of this very fine spandex elastic. So I'm going to take 3 strands of this, and I'm going to tie it in, kind of use a pinch wrap. It's kind of a pretty limp material. I'll use a pinch wrap, and I'm going to wrap back over it as I stretch it, trying to keep it on top of the hook. And come just a bit down the bend, and then kind of get a preview of it, make sure that's all on the top of the hook shank. And then these front ends I'll just trim out. So the next thing we're going to tie in is the rib, and in this case it's red wire. Small red wire, and I'm using Sibai flat wire just because I like the effect that this makes. It's rather than round, it's flat in cross section. You could of course use round wire, but what I'm going to do, since I've got the thread hanging back there at the bend, is I'm going to lay this in, and you can see where my stub end. Let me get it lined up again here for you. My stub end is just short of the bead. I'm going to catch it at the bend, and then wrap over it going forward, and that just keeps me from wasting a trip forward and backwards again. So I'm going to tie that down, and then for the body, I'm going to tie in a piece of medium-sized black holographic tinsel. Get that wire out of our way. Medium-sized black holographic tinsel. So I'm going to catch this, pull it down to length, and I'll wrap back over it all the way back to the base of the tail as well, like so. Now, one thing I like to do here is build a little bit of a taper. When I watched Josh do this, he didn't build much of a taper. I frayed my thread a little bit there. Anyway, Josh didn't build much of a taper, but I'm going to build a little bit of a taper. Just going to make me feel a little bit better about that. And then I'm going to start to wrap this tinsel forward. And I want to just slightly overlap these turns. But try to keep a nice smooth body as you come forward. And then I'll tie that off with a couple turns. Get a hold of it there. And trim that out. So now I'm going to pick up my wire and I'm just going to spiral wrap this over that tinsel body. 5-6 turns, and I'll tie it off with a couple tight turns. And with that fine wire, you just pull on it to break it loose. So now I'm going to overlap the thread back over the front edge of that abdomen to just in front of the hook point. You can see where it's hanging there, just in front of the hook point. And that's where we're going to tie the wing case in. And the wing case is Mirage Tinsel in large size. I'm going to cut the end of this square. And again, anytime you tie something that comes in off a spool that you're going to use for a wing case, it's going to have a curl in it. I always tie it in curl down. And the reason for that is it lets it curl down and out of your way, rather than if you tied it in the other way, that curl would come forward and be in your way during the rest of the fly. So just save yourself a few headaches there. And I'll fold that back out of the way. Now, the thorax on this is made with CDC dubbing, which is sort of we used to get this, well, we still would get it if they'd ever deliver it. We used to get this from Swiss CDC. And it's just CDC fibers that have been chopped up into a dubbing. This is hard to get. We don't have any of it left at the shop. I, of course, have a secret stash of my own here at the house, but in lieu of this, you could use rabbit dubbing, but you could also just take a black CDC feather and peel the fibers off and dub them on. There's no magic recipe to that. You have the technology to repeat that process. But I'm going to take a little bit of this. And again, black rabbit or black beaver dubbing. The dirty bird dubbing from Greg Senyo would be a good material to use on this as well. But I'm going to just twist that on the thread. And this does come out pretty shaggy and ragged. I'm going to start it just behind the bead. And I'm going to dub a fairly prominent thorax here. And when I get where I want, I can just kind of pull that extra bit down. Now I'm going to use that extra bit, so I'm not going to pull it off the thread. You can see I've left it on the thread there. I'm just going to slide it down out of the way. And at this point, I'm going to tie in 3 more strands of that shaggy dub for the legs. So I just, pulled a little pinch out of that package. And I'm just going to align 3 strands like so. So they don't have to be even or anything. I just want them kind of lined up. And I'm going to catch this just behind the bead with a turn or two of thread and anchor that down in there. Now, you don't need to do figure eights or do anything fancy here. We're going to pull 1/2 of these to the near side and 1/2 to the far side. And then I'll slide my dubbing up. I'm going to put a few more turns of dubbing in the middle, or I'm sorry, not in the middle, right behind the bead. And what that'll do, pull everything back here so you can see what that did, is that's going to split those legs to either side. I've got 3 on one side. I squeezed 1 over to my near side. I got 4 on one side. So I'm just going to position those 3 to a side, like so. Then I'm going to pick up my Mirage flash and pull that over and come up with my thread right behind the bead and kind of lift up on it and let that anchor down behind the bead, get a couple turns on it. And then I'll fold that back and catch it with a few more turns just there behind the bead before I whip finish. So throw a whip finish in, trim your thread out, and then to trim this flash, I like to, especially with the wide stuff, it's very easy to do. Just nick the corner of it and tear it, and that way it'll tear flush and not leave a stub sticking out. Now I'm going to leave the tail and legs long for the moment because I'm going to put a little bit of resin on here. So what I've got is some medium Solarez, and I've got a CFB double-ended bodkin here that Jerry Hogan makes for us. People have been asking about this, so I'm going to show this one off as well. And I'm going to use the spike end to pick up a drop. And I'm going to place this drop just on the back edge of the bead, up over the wing case, onto the body of the fly. And you can see that with that wide spike, that holds a pretty good drop, but really lets me get it placed with that fine tip. And on the other end of this bodkin is a very fine tip needle if I need to do any fine work to kind of get things positioned just right. I'm pretty happy there. So I'm going to take my UV lamp and I'm going to cook that. And again, the trick with the UV lamp is to hold it far away from the material so that you don't cook it too quickly. kind of rotate the fly around a little bit so that cures slowly and gives you a nice smooth wing case, like so. And then finally we'll come in and trim the legs, and I like to trim the legs separate on each side. I'm going to trim my near side, trim my far side. I've been joined by Pearl and Paloma. I don't know if you hear the panting, that's not me, that is my little dogs who've come to join us. Yes, I'll be right with you, ma'am, please. And now for the tail, I'm going to trim that about, I'm going to say 3/4 of a hook shank long. And you got that nice split tail effect. So really some nice wiggly legs in there that aren't going to slow down the sink rate because they're so limp, but a lot of good wiggle in there. That's a cool fly. There's a lot of variety that you could do with that. That CDC dubbing is very lively. I'll give you a little better preview there. But that is Josh's, there we go. That is Josh's Immortal May. Cool fly. Don't overlook it. I did for too long, and now I'm mad. So I've got several dozen of these in my box now. I think you should take it out and fish it. Let us know what you think. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, if you need anything, charlieslybox.com. Check it out. Thanks for watching.